Most women are taught that to keep a man, they have to be easy to love. They think the more available, agreeable, and accommodating they are, the more he'll want to stay. But the truth is, a man doesn't chase what is easy. He chases what he has to earn. Today, I'm giving you the 3 forbidden phrases that most women are terrified to say. These phrases aren't meant to be mean. They are designed to show him that you are a woman of sovereignty and high standards. The moment you say these, you stop being a choice and you start being a challenge. If you want to shift the power dynamic and make him see you as the prize he can't afford to lose, listen closely. We've been taught that to keep a man, we have to make things easy for him. We think that if we show him how much we care, how low maintenance we are, and how much we want this to work, he'll feel safe enough to commit. But safe isn't what makes a man chase. Respect is what makes a man chase. There are 3 phrases that most women are terrified to say because they fear it will scare him off. But for a high-value man, these phrases act like an emotional magnet. Hemeja high, definition close-up of a woman's face, looking calm and slightly amused, as if she knows a secret the viewer doesn't. Hey Fraser wonder, that doesn't work for me. When he suggests a last-minute plan or crosses a boundary, most women try to make it work. But when you calmly say, that doesn't work for me, without anger or a 500-word explanation, you establish your emotional no-fly zone. You aren't being difficult, you are being sovereign. You are showing him that you have a standard over sentiment that you aren't willing to break. Phrase bait 2, I'm not sure yet. When he asks where you stand or what you want, and you haven't seen enough consistency from him, don't give him the yes. Say, I'm not sure yet. This creates the vacuum of uncertainty. It tells him that he hasn't won yet. It forces him to look at his own emotional inventory and realize that he still has to qualify for a permanent spot in your life. Image. 2 people at a candlelit dinner, but the woman is leaning slightly back, creating space, while the man is leaning in, engaged and attentive. Aim phrase N3A, I love my life, with or without this. This is the ultimate desperation deficit. It tells him that you aren't looking for a savior or a provider for your happiness. You are the CEO of your own joy. When he realizes that his absence wouldn't break you, that you would simply pivot back to your legacy of competence, he realizes he is dealing with a woman of true power. Stop trying to be the woman he can handle, and start being the woman he has to earn. Because a man will never cry over losing what was easy. He will only chase what he knows is rare, the selective approval metric, the currency of high status attraction in the economy of dating. Approval is the most valuable currency you have. However, like any currency, its value is determined entirely by its scarcity. Most women, driven by a desire to build a safe harbor or show interest, flood the market with their approval. They laugh at every joke, they agree with every opinion, and they provide constant competence validation for even the most basic of efforts. While this feels like being nice, it actually triggers a psychological devaluation effect. If your approval is given for free, it becomes worthless. The selective approval metric is the high status practice of making your validation something he has to earn through character, effort, and consistency. The danger of the yes woman. When a man realizes that he has your total approval regardless of his behavior, he stops striving. If you are always agreeable and always on his side, you lose your opinion sovereignty. You are no longer a peer or a challenge. You become an echo. For a high-value man, an echo is boring. He doesn't want to date someone who is just a mirror of his own ego. He wants to date a woman whose standard is so high that when she does give him a well done, it actually means something. By providing blanket approval, you remove the friction that creates heat. Attraction requires a certain amount of resistance. If there is no resistance, there is no chase. The selective approval metric ensures that he never feels like he has fully conquered your mind. He knows that his access to your praise is conditional on his own performance. Becoming the qualifying authority, implementing this metric requires you to lean into your legacy of competence. You are a woman who has built a life of substance, and your taste is refined. When he suggests a movie, a restaurant, or an idea, don't just go along with it to be easy. If you don't like it, say so, calmly and without apology. Image a high-resolution photo of a woman looking thoughtfully at a man, one eyebrow slightly raised, her expression indicating that she is weighing his words rather than just accepting them. This creates the qualifying gap. When you are selective with your praise, he starts to seek it. It's the same psychology as a difficult exam. The harder it is to pass, the more valuable the degree. When he finally says something or does something that causes you to light up and give him that genuine, radiant validation, he feels a surge of dopamine. He feels like he has truly won a piece of you. The reward of the earned smile. A man will chase the woman whose approval feels like a promotion. If you give it away to everyone, it's just a participation trophy. But if you hold it back until he exhibits the maturity, parity you require, he will view you as a lifetime discovery. This is the ultimate desperation deficit. You aren't desperate for him to like you, so you aren't afraid to disagree with him. This lack of fear is the ultimate aphrodisiac. It shows him that you are a sovereign being who values truth over harmony. And in a world of people who are desperate to be liked, a woman who is selective with her approval is the only one a high-value man will truly chase like crazy. That choice, not necessity frame. The power of the moving train. One of the most profound shifts in a woman's dating power occurs when she moves from a waiting room mentality to a moving train reality. In the waiting room, your life feels like it is on pause until a man decides to enter it. Your schedule is flexible, your emotions are reactive, and your future is a series of Fs dependent on his choices. But a high-value woman operates within the choice, not necessity frame. This frame projects a powerful psychological truth. Your life is a high-speed, high-purpose train that is leaving the station with or without him. He isn't the conductor, he is a potential passenger who has to decide if he has the ticket and the character to get on board. The illusion of the center. A man's biggest fear in a relationship is often that he will become the sole source of a woman's happiness. When he feels that you need him for your emotional survival, he feels a weight of responsibility that eventually leads to resentment and withdrawal. He becomes the center of your universe, and as the center, he no longer feels the need to move toward you. The chase dies because there is nowhere left for him to go. By contrast, when you embody the choice, not necessity frame, you exhibit a desperation deficit. You show him that you are the CEO of your own joy. You have your legacy of competence, your career, your passions, your non-reactive sanctuary of friends, and your personal growth that consumes your focus. When he sees that your world is already full, he realizes that he is a luxury add-on, not a survival requirement. This creates a massive surge in your value because it proves you aren't looking for a savior, you are looking for an equal. The attraction of the moving train. Human beings are evolutionarily wired to want to be part of something that is already successful. When a man sees that your life is moving, that you have plans, that you are achieving goals, and that you are genuinely enjoying your existence, he feels an instinctive urge to join that momentum. Image a sleek, high-speed train blurring past a platform, with a man standing on the platform looking on with an expression of intense interest and a slight fear of missing out. This is the ultimate pattern interrupt. He expects you to be waiting by the phone. Instead, he finds that you are at a gallery opening, or finishing a project, or traveling with friends. When you say, "Oh, I'd love to see you, but I'm actually tied up with project event this week," you aren't playing hard to get. You are simply hard to get because your life is worth living. You are showing him that your time is a finite, high-value resource. From necessity to sovereignty, the choice, not necessity, frame is the practical application of sexual and emotional self-sovereignty. It tells a man, "I want you, but I don't need you. My life is beautiful as it is, but I am open to making it even more beautiful with the right person." This frame forces him into the qualifying gap. He realizes that if he wants a seat on your train, he has to keep up. He has to bring value, consistency, and respect to the table just to stay in the conversation. When a man realizes that you would be perfectly fine, perhaps even flourishing without him, he doesn't walk away. He chases. He chases because he wants to be the one who earns the right to be the exception to your independence. Gemini said the challenge, frequency, why men chase the climb in the world of high-stakes attraction, ease, is often the enemy of desire. While we are taught that being low maintenance and easy going is the key to a man's heart, the reality of male psychology is quite different. Men are evolutionarily wired for the pursuit, the problem solving, and the conquest of value. When a woman is too solved, when her schedule is always open, her opinions always mirror his, and her heart is won before he's even broken a sweat, the challenge frequency is flat-lined. To make a man chase like crazy, you have to operate on a frequency that requires him to level up just to stay in the game. The psychology of the high-status obstacle. A man values what he has to work for. If he walks into a store and is handed a gold watch for free, he'll wear it, but he won't treasure it. But if he has to save for a year, research the brand, and navigate a waitlist to get that same watch, he will protect it with his life. The challenge frequency is the dating equivalent of that waitlist. It isn't about being difficult or playing games. It's about having a standard over sentiment that is so high, he is forced to become a better version of himself to meet it. When you operate on this frequency, you aren't an easy win. You are a lifetime discovery. You have an emotional no-fly zone that he must respect. You have a legacy of competence that he must admire. When he realizes that your time, your attention, and your heart are not default settings but are earned privileges, he stops being a passive observer and starts being an active pursuer. Maintaining the qualifying gap. The core of the challenge frequency is the qualifying gap. Most women close this gap too early. They decide a man is the one after 3 dates and stop qualifying him. They move from, "Is he good enough for me?" to, "How can I make him stay?" The moment that shift happens, the challenge is gone, and so is the chase. To maintain the frequency, you must remain the qualifying authority. When he does something well, you give him selective approval. When he falters, you implement the abrupt silence protocol, or the safety to fail withdrawal. You aren't being mean. You are simply maintaining the price of admission. You are showing him that you are a woman of opinion sovereignty who isn't afraid to be misunderstood or even to be alone if the standard isn't met. The reward of the difficult. Prize high value men are bored by the easy yes. They crave the woman who challenges their intellect, their character, and their growth. When you are a challenge, you aren't a headache, you are a mission. He feels a surge of pride every time he earns a smile, a yes to a date, or a deeper piece of your vulnerability. Hanamej, a chess player looking at the board with intense focus and excitement, realizing they have finally found a worthy opponent. This is the ultimate desperation deficit. You aren't desperate to be caught, so he has to run faster to catch you. By remaining a high-status challenge, you ensure that the relationship never becomes stagnant. You keep him in a state of perpetual discovery, where he is constantly learning that your value is deeper than he originally thought. And because he had to climb the mountain to get to you, he will spend the rest of his life making sure he never falls off. The abrupt pivot capability, the power of emotional mobility. In the dance of attraction, most people are predictable. When a man pulls away, the average woman leans in. When a man becomes disrespectful, the average woman becomes argumentative or emotional. This predictability is a form of emotional stagnation. It tells a man exactly how much he can get away with because he knows your reaction before he even acts. But a high-value woman possesses a psychological superpower, the abrupt pivot capability. This is the ability to shift your energy from warm, radiant, and all in to cool, distant, and sovereign the very moment a boundary is crossed. It is the ultimate proof that your warmth is not a permanent state of nature, but a conditional gift. The end of the predictable woman abrupt pivot is the practical application of your emotional no-fly zone. Most women fear that if they suddenly change their energy, they will be labeled moody or difficult. So they try to maintain a consistent sweetness even when they are being mistreated. This is a catastrophic mistake. It teaches a man that he can devalue you without losing the safe harbor of your affection. When you implement the abrupt pivot, you are utilizing non-reactive power. If you are on a date and he makes a disrespectful comment, you don't start a fight. You don't get teary-eyed. You simply pivot. Your radiant smile vanishes. Your selective approval is withdrawn. You become polite but unreachable. This sudden change in the atmospheric pressure of the room is far more terrifying to a man than a scream ever could be. It signals that he has just lost clearance to your inner world. The psychology of the energy withdrawal. Human beings are wired to be hypersensitive to the withdrawal of warmth. When you are a non-reactive sanctuary, a man feels safe. But when you pivot, you create an immediate contextual gap. He realizes that the person who was just laughing with him is now looking at him like a stranger who has just failed an audition. Image. A high-definition shot of a thermostat being turned from a warm orange glow to a sharp, icy blue. It represents the immediate shift in emotional climate. This pivot demonstrates your standard over sentiment. It shows that your self-respect is faster than your feelings. You aren't performing anger. You are simply no longer interested in providing competence validation to someone who isn't meeting the standard. This creates a vacuum. In that vacuum, he feels the cold, he feels the weight of your abrupt silence, and he realizes that the only way to get the hate back is to correct his behavior. The sovereignty of choice, the abrupt pivot capability is the ultimate expression of sexual and emotional self-sovereignty. It proves that you are in control of your energy inventory. You aren't a victim of his moods, you are the judge of his actions. By being able to pivot away at a moment's notice, you show a desperation deficit that is incredibly magnetic. A man will chase the woman whose warmth he knows he can lose. If your warmth is guaranteed, it has no value. But if it can be pivoted away the second he drops the ball, he will treat your attention like the precious, high-status resource it is. You aren't being hot and cold. You are being consistent with your standards. And there is nothing that makes a man level up faster than the realization that the woman he's with has the power to leave him, spiritually and emotionally, long before she ever walks out the door. The standard over sentiment rule the architecture of unshakable respect. In the anatomy of a heartbreak or a failing relationship, there is a war being waged between two internal forces: your sentiment, which is the deep, emotional attachment you feel for a man, and your standard, which is the logical blueprint of how you must be treated to remain in a connection. Most women lose this war because they allow their sentiment to act as a get-out-of-jail-free card for a man's poor behavior. They feel so much love that they lower the bar to accommodate his lack of effort. But a highly attractive, high-status woman operates on a different hierarchy. She practices standard over sentiment. She understands that while her feelings are valid, her standards are non-negotiable. The trap sentiment is a powerful drug. It reminds you of the peak moments, the early dates, the late night conversations, and the potential of what the relationship could be. When a man stops showing up, when he becomes inconsistent, or when he disrespects your emotional no-fly zone, your sentiment tries to protect him. It whispers, but he's going through a hard time, but we have so much history. The problem is that a man doesn't fall in love with your ability to overlook his mistakes. He doesn't respect you more because you understood him into treating you poorly. In fact, the more you allow sentiment to override your standards, the less value you have in his eyes. You become a bargain, someone who is willing to sell herself respect for the price of his company. The standard as a fortress. A standard is not a suggestion, it is a boundary of entry. It is the legacy of competence applied to your personal life. When you choose standard over sentiment, you are telling the man's and yourself, my feelings for you are a separate issue from your eligibility to be in my life. This means that you can love a man deeply and still walk away from him. This is the ultimate pattern interrupt. A man expects that if you love him, you are trapped by that love. He thinks your feelings give him leverage. When you implement the abrupt silence, protocol, or the abrupt pivot. Despite your heart being broken, you shatter his leverage. You prove that your opinion sovereignty, your own judgment of what is right, is more powerful than your biological urge to connect. This strength is terrifyingly attractive to a high-value man because it proves you are a woman of integrity. Why he chases the standard A man doesn't chase the woman who loved him too much. He chases the woman who respected herself more. When you prioritize your standard, you force him to face his own emotional inventory. He realizes that your safe harbor wasn't a charity. It was a high-status destination that required a specific visa of respect to enter. By choosing standard over sentiment, you are showing him that you are a sovereign being. You aren't a dependent, waiting for him to choose you. You are a qualifying authority who has just found him wanting. The finality of your departure is what haunts him. He realizes that your love was a gift, but your standard was the price of admission. And because he couldn't pay the price, he has lost the gift forever. That realization, that he was weighed in the balance and found lacking by a woman who truly loved him, is the most devastating emotional experience a man can have. The vacuum of uncertainty, the engine of obsession in the early stages of attraction. Certainty is the silent killer of desire. While your instinct may be to provide a man with total clarity, telling him exactly how much you like him, where you are at all times, and what your future plans are, this level of transparency often backfires. It creates a solved mystery effect. When a man knows everything about your emotional state, he stops thinking about you because there is no mental work left to do. The vacuum of uncertainty is the psychological space created when you remain a high-status enigma, forcing his mind to fill the gaps with thoughts of you. The science of mental real estate. Human beings are hardwired to close loops. When we encounter a puzzle or an unfinished story, our brains become hyper-focused on finding the solution. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect. In dating, if you provide the ending to the story too soon, by being overly available or emotionally transparent, you close the loop. His brain checks you off the list and moves on to the next unsolved problem. By maintaining a vacuum of uncertainty, you keep the loop open. When you don't over-explain why you were busy, or you don't immediately heart every message he sends, you create a question mark in his mind. He begins to wonder, what is she doing? Is she thinking about me? Does she like me as much as I like her? This internal dialogue is the definition of the chase. The more time he spends trying to solve you, the more mental real estate you occupy. Using opinion sovereignty as a filter, the vacuum is not about playing games or being manipulative. It is about sovereignty. It is the refusal to be an open book to someone who hasn't yet earned the right to read it. When you practice opinion sovereignty, you don't feel the need to justify your choices or your feelings. If you say, "I'm not sure yet," regarding your feelings for him, you aren't lying, you are being authentically cautious. This creates the qualifying gap. He realizes that your approval isn't a guarantee, it's a variable. He has to stay engaged and consistent to fill the vacuum with positive evidence of his own value. This uncertainty isn't based on fear, it's based on the fact that you are a lifetime discovery with layers that take time to peel back. The magnetism of the unknown. A man will always be more fascinated by the woman he is trying to understand than the woman he has already figured out. The vacuum of uncertainty acts as a mirror for his own desires. Because he doesn't have all the answers, he projects his best case scenarios onto you. He imagines you are the safe harbor he's been looking for, but because he isn't 100% sure, he works harder to make it a reality. This is the ultimate desperation deficit. You aren't desperate for him to know your heart, because you know your heart is a prize. By holding back the full reveal, you allow the tension to build. You show him that your life is a complex, moving train, and he is still in the observation phase. And as long as there is a vacuum to fill, he will keep chasing, keep dreaming, and keep investing in the mystery that is you. The reason these phrases work is because they prove you have a desperation deficit. You aren't afraid of the silence, and you aren't afraid of being alone. When you choose standard over sentiment, You force a man to face the reality of your value. He realizes that access to your heart isn't a permanent right. It's a privilege that he has to maintain every single day. Stop worrying about scaring him off and start focusing on qualifying him. The right man won't run away, he'll run faster to keep up. I'll see you in the next video.